It can't happen here. That's what they always say. Frank Zappa song from the late 60s. Love that song. Play it sometime. Look it up on YouTube or Apple or Spotify, whatever. It Can't Happen Here by Frank Zappa. It's a bizarre song. There is some truth to it. He talks about it can't happen. Who thought that they would freak out in Kansas, in Minnesota, in Washington, D.C.? They're freaking out in Washington, D.C. a lot these days, and in Kansas and Minnesota and Colorado and everywhere. We're watching a documentary right now called Asians in America. And it's a PBS series. It was on some years ago. And it is a powerful indictment of how government will crush you and your liberties and your so-called freedoms just like that without any conscience. They will do it. They did that less than 100 years ago, back 1940s to be exact, 1940s, when World War II was going on and the United States finally, got attacked at Pearl Harbor, decided to get into the war after a couple of years of it going on. And in doing so, they immediately put, except for the Japanese males that volunteered, mostly males, I assume, that volunteered for service to go do combat, their families then were put in prison, basically concentration camps, internment camps. And that's something I was aware of for a long time, but I did not know to the extent of how that happened and what went down. And the fact that only reparations were only paid out to some of the survivors in the late 1980s, 40 years later, before the government finally owned up to the fact that was wrong. Wrong to put law-abiding, peaceful Japanese Americans in prison for 4.5 years, some of them for up to 6 years before they were released. What's that all about? You don't have to go that much further back in our history to 120 years ago, whatever, now to Civil War, when African Americans were enslaved, millions of African Americans sanctioned by state governments with only 1 to 2% of the population slave owners. This was approved of, and of course the northern states decided after a while that was not a good idea. We had a war, bloody war for 4 years. 7% of the population died in it. It just tore the country apart. And this just goes to show you that right now, today, your government is talking about oppressive measures against people who just want to have medical freedom, to not have a poke put into them with this experimental thing. Now, they said it couldn't happen here, but in other countries, we see people being ostracized, being put in camps. It's already been happening in Australia and some European countries, I believe. And in Canada, they're freezing people's bank accounts for protesting. I mean, it's starting to hit the fan, if you know what I mean. And so we relaxed it a little bit now. The lockdowns are eased up a little bit because we're warming up, and the flu is basically going away. The flu that kills 1% of the people, average age 80. So not anything really to be getting as worked up about as our government has been. But our government's coming down hard. There's other reasons they're doing that. It's not really that much to do with a virus. They tell us that's the reason. I believe it goes much deeper than that. It's about government control, surveillance, oversight, and controlling our lives to a much larger degree than they've ever been able to do, even going back to the Roman days, when the Romans had a lot of control over the Jews and, the Christians and whatever. It's never been like it is today with this kind of matrix technology we have, with government oversight watching us 24/7, everything we do. Smart meters, they know when you're brushing your teeth, when you're going to sleep, when you're waking up. They know everything. That cannot be a good thing for us as human beings. And I tell you, people said that the vaccine passport thing would never happen here. It's already happening. There's a number of business establishments in the Denver area that you cannot go and participate, movie theaters, concert venues, and the like. You cannot go without proof of vaccination. It's already happening. How much further will it go? And before we'll have the day, they'll be coming for people and saying, if you don't have a vaccine passport, you can't shop in a grocery store, you can't go out and do business anywhere, buy clothes, supplies. What about the day when they come and they say, you didn't get a vaccine, we're going to take you and put you in a special separated camp. You can't be around all the vaccinated people. Who's to say that's not going to happen? It happened before in World War II. The government came right in, put these Japanese Americans in these concentration camps, essentially. deprived them of their freedom for 4.5 to 6 years. Who's to say they won't come after people that decide they don't want to participate in the vaccination program and put them away for 4 to 6 years, maybe forever, for life? We don't know what's coming. We do know that the monetary system is great danger right now, the one that we've been using for so long in my lifetime. Dollars and bills, money, currency, that's going away. The digital currency system is being ushered in every day, a little more and more as coming into our life. Pretty soon we'll have these little credit scores, which is what we have now anyway. How often do people use cash? Mostly it's a credit card, debit card, swipe your little barcode on your hand, your eye imprint you'll put up and put your eye. You do things online, push a button and you buy something. No cash is being used. A lot of businesses today don't want to use cash. A lot of them won't give back change if you pay in cash. I promise you folks, the world is changing very, very quickly. We're in a state of flux. We're in a state of flux. And the only way out is to maintain yourself through this change and adapt to the change. We have to. So be flexible. Be aware that there are shortages of supplies. More and more I go in stores and I see empty shelves, that they're getting rid of a lot of merchandise that they no longer think is viable, such as DVDs. In the store the other night, I saw all the shelves were emptied out in Walmart. The bins were crammed full of pretty decent movies that nobody's buying anymore. Everybody's streaming now. Nobody even has a DVD player much anymore. The world is radically changing very quickly. We're in a state of flux. People on the phones all the time now, more and more addicted to the phones. The dopamine screen time is up to 11.5 hours a day average for Americans. 11.5 hours a day average for Americans screen time. Be aware, folks, it can happen here. Not only can it, it is happening. Be prepared, be ready, because it's going to keep happening and there's more flux coming. I promise you that. Namaste.